Hey guys, this is Brandon with MG Cleaners. Today I'm going to take a little bit of time to answer a few of the questions that we've received through Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. If you have a question, submit it to us, and maybe it'll be featured on our next Q&A video. Our first question is, my unloader isn't working. Can I remove it and still use my machine? The short answer is yes. However, there are several precautions that you have to take if you're going to remove the unloader from your system. While the unloader sets the pressure for your system, it also unloads the gallons per minute that your pump is rated for when you release the trigger on your machine. When you release that trigger, the water has to go somewhere. When you release the trigger, the water will deadhead against your gun assembly. Now, because the unloader sets the pressure on your machine, you're not only going to get the full rated pressure for the machine, but you're going to get everything that that machine is capable of. Some pumps will push up to 6,000 pounds without an unloader setting the pressure. 6,000 pounds on a 4,000 pound hose means that you're going to burst your hose. You're possibly going to do damage to your gun and trigger assembly. You also run the risk of rupturing your pop-off valve or any other safety devices that you may have in the system. This can be a very dangerous situation. The only way that you can run your machine without the unloader is by using a flow-through gun. Now you notice this has no trigger. The water does exactly what its name says. It flows straight through and onto your tip. The flow-through gun will allow you to remove the unloader and somewhat safely use your machine. Now there are other safety precautions that need to be taken when using a flow-through gun. When your machine starts, it begins to pump water. You have to be ready to wash immediately. There is no way to shut it down without shutting your machine down. So there are some safety precautions that need to be taken if you're going to do that. Ultimately, if you don't already have a flow-through gun, you'll find that it's more cost-effective and time-effective to go ahead and replace the unloader as opposed to buying a flow-through gun, taking the time to remove the unloader, replumbing it without the unloader, and setting up for the flow-through assembly. So we recommend that you go ahead and replace the unloader. Our next question is, how do I know which chemicals to use when washing? And that's a very good question because not all chemicals are made the same and not all jobs require the same chemical. So when you're considering which jobs to use what detergent on, here are some things that you need to ask yourself. Is the surface painted? Is the surface protected by a sealant, or do I run the risk of damaging it with harsh chemicals? Will the surface react with certain chemicals? Is the surface soft, like wood, and susceptible to scarring from the high pressure water? Now these are great questions for any job that you take on. Some jobs you can get away with just using hot or cold water, but most of these jobs you'll find that the hot or cold water doesn't remove films, residue, doesn't get a deep down clean that you would using a detergent. There are a few chemical questions that you need to ask yourself also. Am I washing organic or inorganic material? Could adding chemicals to what you're cleaning cause an adverse reaction? And do I need to contain the materials washed away, or can they be introduced back into the environment? These are great questions to consider when you're about to begin a wash job. These are not questions that you want to consider mid-wash job, because if you are trying to clean up a harsh chemical and you put another harsh chemical with it, there could be an adverse reaction. It could release a gas that is harmful to those around you and to the environment. So you really need to ask these questions. Organic materials are cleaned very well by alkaline detergents. Alkaline detergents are pretty common, and so if you have any mold, mildew, anything that is organic, it's going to be great for cleaning those things. A lot of metal cleaning. If you have stains, buildup, rust, calcium deposits, lime deposits, you're going to want to use an acid. And there are other chemicals out there. You may want to choose between a alkaline degreaser that cuts or an emulsifier. Emulsifiers break down while alkaline cuts through. You just need to be sure to do your research before you do the job. That way your job comes out great, your customer is happy, and everybody ends up safe. Our final question is, are turbo tips better than normal pressure washing tips? Now that's kind of a loaded question because a lot of people first use a turbo tip and they're blown away by it. As you recall from a previous video, turbo tip is a 0-degree nozzle that rotates in a circular pattern. It's great for cutting through buildup. It's great for powering through really tough jobs. However, is it better than a standard tip? I don't believe so. The issue is all tips are made with a specific job in mind. Whether you've got a 40-degree fan tip that ends up being a softer wash, or whether you have a 0-degree tip that's just a straight jet of water, those tips are designed for jobs. And so to say one tip is better than the next is like saying one job is better than the next. Now, a turbo tip is very versatile and they're very powerful. And so you can get a lot done with a turbo tip. However, you can also peel paint off of painted surfaces with a turbo tip. And you can also leave scarring in wood and other products if you use a turbo tip on it where you should normally use a fan tip. So what it comes down to is that a turbo tip is really no better than any other tip. It just depends on the job that you're needing to do. If you have a job that requires a turbo tip, well, the turbo tip is going to be better for that job. So, thank you for submitting your questions. Look forward to answering some more. You can submit them right here on our YouTube channel. In the comments below, you can send us a message. Get with us on Facebook or Twitter and send us your questions, and we'll try to answer them in our next Q&A video. Again, I'm Brandon with MG Cleaners. Thanks for watching.